7 surgeons, 5 locations, 1 goal: to improve the health and lives of people in Oklahoma. At Oral and Maxillofacial Associates, we treat every patient like family. As the preferred dental implant and oral surgery specialist of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and with over 30 years of service to our community, we are trusted by professionals and dedicated to expert care. With 5 convenient locations around the metro area, we are here for you. Trust the experts at OMA. Visit our website, www.omaok.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Skordle State Hoops Pick'em Show. My name is Michael Swisher, and we're getting set for the 2025 Class B, Class A, Class 2A state championships at State Fair Arena. It's the last dance at the Big House here in 2025, and we've got a couple of tremendous weeks up ahead of us for basketball here. And we're going to get it started right here on Skordle with a panel of experts, as we're going to tell you who's going to win each and every state championship and not be wrong in the least. First, let me introduce our panel of experts. We've got Mark Rogers, of course. He's a middle of the day show. You see him all over Skordle as well. Just a plethora of things on Skordle. Heard him and saw him the other night calling some Class B area championship basketball. Tony Wilson out there slinging snow cones and pizza to whoever will take it. Shane Feely, O'Keene High School principal, a state champion coach in his own right, and no doubt one half of the greatest pitcher first base combo in Kingfisher T-Ball League history. And we got Aaron Kalk, the voice of the Elk City Elks for the last 9 years. And again, this panel absolutely going to get it right. And I try to give you guys a heads up before we dive into our picks. Again, this is the last year at the Big House. Obviously, the Big Barn's got a lot of memories for a lot of people. We've seen the OSSA running through some stuff and going through some memories with everybody. Mark, I'm going to start with you. Do you have a memory or an event there that really stands out to you over the years?
Wow. I mean, I think I've seen so many games there throughout the years that it's just hard to sort out some of the bigger ones. I think Keaton Page and Rodney Clark, the year that may have been
2008
biggest attendance year. The year before that was the Blake Griffin year, I think, where it was just, completely packed in the building. But I think that the new arena looks really, really nice. And so I think that it will serve its purpose when it's ready to roll next year.
Tony, yours have anything to do with the Chandler Lions?
It possibly could. Swish in '97, we defeated the Carnegie that moved up from 2A to 3A in Terrell Hill, and a 1-point victory after 2 free throws being made by OCA coach John Tay Austin. And it's just a memory that, even though it's many, many years ago, still is very fresh. But I'll tell you what, last year's Weatherford Douglas 4A boys final was electric. That was an amazing atmosphere in there. And just me on a personal note, more so is getting to PA my first game in the Big House last year was definitely on my bucket list. So I'm really appreciative and thankful for that.
Yeah, so that's the great thing about it. So many different ways the memories can be shaped, whether as a fan or somebody who's calling games or doing PA. And Coach Feely, I have an idea yours is shaped in a different way.
Well, like Mark said, there's so many great players and games that have been played in that arena. It's hard to narrow it down. But for me personally, as a player in 1990, we played the Hammond Warriors in the finals, and Ryan Miner and Damon Miner. And that was a magical run for our team. We did not win the gold ball, but it was great to be there and play against those guys. And then in 2007, our O'Keene Whippets were able to bring home a state championship, and a very special group of kids is still very special to me today.
Pretty weak. You couldn't knock off the Miners, but whatever. I guess you got it done as a coach a little bit later on.
Yeah.
How about you, Mr. Kalk? Any special memory for you from the Big House?
Yeah, I think a play and then a day. The play was Pond Creek Hunter and OK middle 2010s when they, the inbounds pass, trying to make the right play to throw it down to the other end, kind of slipped out of, I think it was Aaron Jones's hands right in the middle of the lane. And OK ended up going and playing Fort Cobb again in the state finals. And then a day, I think it was 2022, when you saw two coaches' kids hit free throws with under 10 seconds left for both Sealing and then for Glencoe. The first 3 games went down to the last shot, and then Tushka won as an unranked Class A boys champ that same year. That was an awesome, awesome day to be in the big house.
I had the call on both of those games, and that was pretty magical for sure. Seeing both those coaches' kids do that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I think your play happened in 2017.
Okay.
I happened to be there, and just I told a guy next to me as it was going on. I grabbed my phone, turned it on video, and I said, "You just never know." And it's still my pinned tweet, mostly because I just don't tweet a lot anymore, and I haven't had a reason to pull that tweet off. But yeah, that was a crazy play. All right, so let's dive into it. We're going to work our way down from 2A down to Class B. We're going to start with the 2A girls. They're going to start on Thursday so they're going to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They're going to be at the fairgrounds all 3 days, obviously. We've got at 4:30 p.m. at the top of the bracket, we've got number 1 Dale and number 7 Merritt. That's a rematch from last year's state title game. Up there with them are number 5 Oklahoma Bible Academy, number 6 Latta. Bottom half of the bracket has number 4 Okema, still undefeated this season, taking on number 2 Pecola. And then at the very bottom, we've got Howe, number 8 in the state, and number 3 Hartshorn. Coaches got it right on these picks for 2A. 1 through 8 makes it to the state tournament. There were a couple upsets. It didn't go chalk, as you would say, as there were some upsets and some high favorites had to work their way through the losers bracket. But Mark, I'm going to start with you and let everybody know we're just going to kind of pick our favorites to get to the finals. If we have a dark horse, maybe who could derail those plans, and then our overall winner. Mark, I'll start with you and tell me what's going to happen.
It's incredible. Dale has made, between the boys and girls, 14 straight state tournament appearances. And this is a rematch, as you mentioned, of the final last year with Dale and Merritt. And Skinny knows a lot about Merritt. But I was so impressed. I had Dale against Preston early in the season, saw them. They're really good. Dropped a game to Latta not too long ago, which was a little bit of a surprise. They could have that matchup in the second round, but OBA is also really good. So I think Dale will get back on top this year, win another one. That would be what for them? State championship. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would be the 9th state championship for Dale. And this is the 38th overall appearance for them. So I think Dale gets to the final. The Okema team is kind of very intriguing because they're undefeated, like you talked about. They'll have a tough first round matchup with Pecola, who's the number 2 team, but they lost in the regional tournament. So I had to go back through that bracket. So I will go a final of Dale against Okema, with Dale winning.
Tony, do you agree?
No, I do not.
What we like. It's what we like.
I do agree that Dale will probably be in the finals, but I think it'll be Hartshorn. Hartshorn has 4 move-ins from McAllister. They got their coach over there. They're very physical and athletic, and they like to get up and down the floor. But it's going to be very interesting to see. But the interesting one with Okema being from Chandler, they're in our conference, so I've got to see them a couple times. They are a very different ball club. Most teams you look at will pass an eye test or something along those lines. These Okema girls are very scrappy. They're going to overplay the ball a lot, and they're going to hack and make you blow the whistle, and they're going to be after you the entire time. It's almost like they try to create chaos to get you off their game. So they very well could be in the finals too, as Mark says, but I think Hartshorn may have too much firepower, but don't count out Coach McKenzie and Alyssa Parker at Pecola. They've been here before. This is their, 3rd trip, and so experience matters. I'm going with Dale and Hartshorn.
You think Hartshorn's gonna knock off the Lady Pirates?
Yeah, I'm going with Hartshorn. I'll be the dark horse guy.
48 points scored in last year's championship game. Do we think there's going to be more in this year's title game?
Take the over. Although Okema, looking at their numbers, they're incredible on defense. They're holding most people under 30 points. So let's hope. Let's hope we have over 50.
I think looking at Dale, not only has Dale been consistently in the city, but Eric Smith has been there 13 years in a row as a coach. Going up against Merritt in that first round game, I think that's a very intriguing game because it's the state championship rematch. I think that'll be another grinder, another low scoring game like it was last year. I think Dale's zone of death will prevail in that game. I think Latta will move on to play Dale in the second round, and I'll take Dale to go to the finals. I differ from you guys on the Pocola Okemah game. I think Alyssa Parker has a great deal of experience, and it's a championship level player. She could be a D1 basketball player if she wasn't going to play softball at OU. And then Hartshorn, I think is like Tony said, a very talented team, several move-ins, very athletic. And so I'm putting Dale and Hartshorn in the finals, and I'm actually taking Hartshorn in the finals to win it all. But I also believe that Merritt could be a little bit of a dark horse if they can get past Dale in that first game.
I am usually the outcast, Coach. Thanks for joining me.
Right on.
All right, Skinny, tell us what you think is going to happen.
I think the Dale Merritt game is intriguing. The Oilerettes lost a big piece in Addison Hartman off that state title team last year, but they do have Marley Mung returning as a junior. She sees the floor incredibly well, gets her teammates shots, but also knows when it's time to take over. I think you kind of saw that against Riverside last night. But I'm not going to go against Eric in what he's done. 3 titles, 4 runners-up, all those state tournaments in a row. And plus, I got to play golf with him at Alva during the Nescatunga, and I don't want to hear it. So I'm gonna keep Eric on my good side. I think Dale does make it to the finals, and I'm the same way as you last. I've got Hartshorn as well. I think they're the most talented team that's there. And so 6-1 against state tournament teams, 12-1 against 2A teams. The only loss was to Pocola, which I wonder if that might be the best game of the entire 2A bracket if we see that in the semifinals. I think it's the deepest class. I think this could be the best slew of games all the way through. But I've got Dale winning. Coming back from last year's disappointment, I think they take the title against Hartshorn in the finals. But I would say Latta would be my dark horse. Everybody's so good, it's hard to have one to me in this tournament. But I'll go with Latta as the dark horse. 9-1, third at the Bertha Teague. They're 6-2 against state tournament teams as well.
And Latta's beat number 1 and number 2 in 2A.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Parker had 41 against Hartshorn in that victory.
And I think one thing you can really bank on, one thing is for certain, it's Coach Eric Smith has watched all 7 other teams in person this year.
Yes.
I know in December 5th, Oklahoma Bible's playing at Okarche, and I go to catch the game, and who's up there with his notepad taking notes? It's Eric Smith, because you never know. And, last year he made the trip to the Bertha Teague just to watch Merritt, because you never know, and guess who he plays in the state final. So he certainly puts in the work. You talk about Shane, the number of years in a row he's been there. He's had great teams, but he puts in a lot of work.
I thought you were talking about me at Okarche, Swish.
What's that?
I thought you were talking about me being at Okarche that night.
Well, I guess you were there too. So what a night it was for me. 2A boys, kind of a shocker here. Dale is the top seed. Taking on Cashin. They're going to play Thursday. They're going to have the morning session over there. This is the breakfast at the big house, that Dale versus Cashin. Fairland and Hartshorn are going off at 10:30 a.m. Then we got Pocola Riverside at 1:30. Rejoice Christian Hooker at noon. Those are the 4 bottom teams there. Obviously, Dale, heavy favorite to win it. They've been the last couple of years last 3 years, I think, and certainly have won that. Are the Pirates going to repeat? We're going to go in reverse order here, Skinny. We'll start with you. Is it the Pirates and everybody else, or does somebody else have a shot this year?
I think so. 77-45 average in the regular season, 86-37 winning in the playoff games on the route to the big house. Their losses are to number 1 Weatherford, who is ridiculously good, and then number 3 now in 4A Crossings Christian. I would never step in front of the Dale Pirates bus. I think they'll play Pocola. I think the best game will be Pocola Hooker to see who gets to play in the finals against Dale. But I went with Pocola. fourth straight trip. They're 12-0 against 2A teams this season, 4-1 against state tournament teams. So I'll go with Dale and Pecola. And as far as I don't think there's a dark horse just because Dale is such a favorite.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is you can take out the tournament champions even and go look at Dell's schedule. They did not take it easy this year. They went out and looked for some hard games, tested themselves, and passed the test each and every time outside of that tournament champions. Shane Feely, do you agree with Skinny?
I definitely believe that Dale will be in the finals. I think the field in the 2A boys is the most tested field of all 6 brackets. Yes, a 1-point loss to Weatherford is nothing to cry about. I think that it only made them better. Fairland and Hartshorn, I think, is an interesting game because Fairland hadn't been to the tournament in 100 years, and Hartshorn hadn't been since 1954. Neither one of those teams, I think, can beat Dale. But I guess if I lived that close to the lake, I wouldn't go to the gym either. Pecola, I've got Pecola moving on, and then Hooker. And I'm going to move Hooker to the finals. Todd Kerr has been to the tournament 13 times in the last 16 years. And I got to watch that team at the Mustang tourney, and they are long, they're athletic, and they're physical. I guess I'm going to make them my dark horse, even though they're going to the finals, because I think Dale's going to win the tournament.
Booty, tell me what it was like watching Fairland at the last time they were at the state tournament.
Pretty good. I mean, I'm not as old as Mark, but we'll go with that.
That's right.
Strangely enough, I have a friend, Greg Tipton's associate athletic director at Oklahoma. I was an equipment manager with him, and he is a Fairland Owl, so he's probably a pretty happy alum right now. But I agree with everybody else. Dale, what do you say about those guys? They're so fundamentally sound. I mean, they do everything right. They're always in the right place at the right time. And when you got a guy like Forsyth with the name Forsyth behind you, that is your go-to, your all-around guy, and the just cast of characters that they have. Jeff Edmondson, man, I don't think that guy gets enough credit. I mean, he's won accolades, but his ability to coach basketball is just simply incredible. But I too believe that Pecola will be in the finals. They got I believe the D1 football player that's going to Tulsa tied in. I think that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. But their size, I think, will be troublesome for most people. But I just think Dale will win in I won't say an easy game, but it'll be a really good basketball game in that finals.
Yeah, and Booty, you talk about it, the job that Coach Edmondson done. Everybody can point and say, well, they've had the most talent, and sure, but that it doesn't always work out that way. And you got to get them to buy into whatever your system is. And being the heavy favorite isn't easy. And Coach Feely, you can attest to this. The year that you wanted at O'Keene, everybody had you pegged to win it, but you still had to get your kids to buy in and come up and show up each and every night and get it done. It's you don't just snap your finger and it happens, right?
No, there's I guess in these classes, 90 some other teams that have the same dream you do, and they're not going to go quietly.
All right, Mark, you're going to make it a clean sweep here?
Yes. Should I let my cat out? Can you guys hear that? I mean, I don't know why it's raining outside. I don't know if the cat was outside.
I don't hear your cat.
Okay, good. That's good news. That's bothering me. 58 straight wins for Dale against Class 2A teams. Last team to beat him, John Hardaway and the Cashin Wildcats on Valentine's Day, I think of 2023, maybe 22. I can't remember, but this has been a heck of a run for this team that plays incredibly well together. They are tall. They give teams fits, at all positions, so they can really score inside. But they just know where everybody's going to be all the time, and it's amazing. So, yeah, Fairland last trip to state 1925. Hartshorn last trip to state 12th and never. They'd never been before. So that'll be an interesting game for one of those teams to get to the semifinals. But I thought Rejoice Christian would give Dale a little bit better game in the area final. I like their team. Camarion Compton Nero is a star. He's going to be a Division I athlete. Just depends on whether it be football or basketball. But I think the final is Dale and Pecola. These teams are staples of the tournament, been there a bunch, and I think Dale will four-peat. His last team to four-peat was Douglas, is that right? And the boys?
Believe so, yeah. And I think they won 5 in a row, so during that run.
Swish, one thing about Dale again, and I'll leave it alone, but it F includes everybody, junior high up. You'll see 100 people wearing Dale shirts while they're at the game. It's a standard that they, expect you to uphold, and he includes everybody. So I think from a young age or younger age, not that most teams don't do this, but he just has the ability to see for these kids to be able to see what it's like and what they have to input to be able to get to this level.
Well, if our panel, the consensus of our panel has anything to say about it, then Will Jones is going to have a couple of fundraisers here next week to raise some money for some state championship rings. So get ready, Mr. Superintendent. Looks like some titles may be coming your way.
Brahms is bringing the heat. Introducing Brahms new spicy chicken sandwiches. Flavor this good just can't be beat. Brahms crispy, tender, spicy chicken delivers just enough kick to ramp up our original recipe. Get it regular or club style with crispy bacon and American cheese. Add on Brahms sauce for that extra burst of heat, and you have spicy chicken sandwich perfection. Because nothing is better than Brahms.
Let's move down to Class A, and they're going to open it up at the fairgrounds on Tuesday. We're going to start with the girls first. They're going to have the afternoon session there. At the speaking of being able to put together lots of wins in a row or lots of titles in a row, we got the Sealing Lady Cats. They're the top seed, playing number 4 Canute. Up there with them are Caddo and Allen. That's number 4 versus, number 2 versus number 8 there. And then we got Quinton and Surreal playing at 9 p.m. the 7:30 game. The Okarche Lady Warriors and Amber Pocasset, close game. I think it's out there now, but pretty amazing for those who don't know. It's public knowledge now, but Coach Brett Taha of the Okarche Lady Warriors on Saturday night coaches the team to the state tournament. Got the long drive home from Cleveland. Get home, Coach Taha's water breaks. Sunday morning, Coach Taha delivers a baby. And Tuesday, Coach Taha plans to be coaching at the Big House. So
Pretty awesome.
Congratulations to her family. Scott, her husband, helps her coach the Lady Warriors as well. So nice little weekend there for the Taha family. So congratulations to them. Mark, I'm going to start with you. Of course, Sealing's going for a 4-peat here. Would be at second 4-peat. Can the Lady Cats get it done, or is this field going to be able to catch up to them?
I think the Lady Cats are going to get it done again. I mean, it's incredible what they've been able to do, the amount of titles that they've won, playing a difficult schedule for sure throughout this. But I mean, to win, this would be state title number 8 since 2016.
Wow.
With a runner-up in there too. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of repeat teams in here. 4th year in a row for Caddo, 3rd year in a row for Quinton, 3rd year in a row for Surreal. Surreal's got some good wins against really good quality competition. And then Allen, a little bit of a newcomer. The last time they won a game at state was 2003. They did go a year ago. So I think the final to me is going to be, I'll go Ampo and Surreal. I think that'll be a close game. Surreal Sealing in the final.
One thing of note, I think we looked it up yesterday. Okarche hasn't gone 2 years in a row missing the state tournament. Of course, they missed it last year, but since 2000 hasn't gone 2 years in a row missing the state tournament. So pretty impressive run there. Tony, you going to go with the Lady Cats? You going to agree, or are you going to step out on that limb?
No, I'm not going to do that, Swish. It has to be a heavy limb for me to be on, or it'll break. But thick limb. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand about the Lady Cats. They're just built differently. And by that, I mean they have a weightlifting program out there that each student athlete has to be enrolled in. They call it a wellness class. And it just allows them to go during their class periods to work out to where then when you have practice time, you're able to devote it all to practice. And you don't have to worry about the calisthenics and things like that. They've already gone through, they have a yoga instructor. They've already gone through that. And so with football, I learned that as well. And Coach Hamer last year, he told me as well. And it just makes them a lot more durable, prone from injury, and it just gives them a lot more push to be able to go where some teams may get a little more fatigued. But I think you could just pretty much just throw everybody else in a hat, but I still think the Lady Cats win it all.
My question is Brian Gore the yoga instructor? If he's not, I wanted to see him at least do the yoga. Shane Feely, what do you got?
Well, I think obviously Ceiling's going to be there at the end. The Fighting Hammers are just, they're a machine right now. Brady's been there since 2002, and I think that speaks to consistency. You see schools sometimes fire coaches or make them miserable to where they leave, and it's a revolving door. That has not been the case at Ceiling, and I think that's a big factor in why they are consistently good every year. And so I've got Ceiling playing Allen in the semis. The bottom half is kind of a conundrum to me. I've got Ampo playing Quinton, and I actually moved Quinton over, and Ceiling wins it. I do not have a dark horse. I think Ceiling will run through this field pretty easy.
You know, and it's to me it's pretty amazing because I would say during this potential run of 8 and since 2016, this is of the teams that have a chance to really win it. This might be the weakest Ceiling team, and and that just testament to how good the program is because they're the number one team in Class A and everybody's favorite to win it, and they just kind of have that expectation to win, and the way they play so hard, it's just pretty amazing.
And I think another point to that is they are never dodging anybody. They're going to play a really tough schedule every year, and they're always tested.
Skinny, you going to make it a clean sweep too?
No.
All right.
No. I think this is the most open bracket. I don't think Ceiling's quite what they have been. And I actually have Caddo in the finals. Number 2 team, 23-4, 10-1 against Class A teams. At some point it has to end. It's been incredible. It's Ceiling or Hydro Weekly. Mostly Ceiling has been the only ones for a decade hoisting up the gold ball. But I've got Caddo and Cyril in the finals. Cyril beat a really good Hammond team that we'll talk about here in just a little bit about 3 weeks ago or so. They're tested. They played a bunch of really good teams. Ceiling and Ampo lost to them. Maybe that helps them in the return matchup. I've got Caddo and Cyril in the finals, and I've got Cyril as the Class A girls state champ. Watch out for Allen though. They've been playing fantastic. 23-4, 7-0 against Class A teams, and they've been really pretty dominant. So maybe a dark horse there in Allen, especially if Ceiling gets tripped up. I'll say this about Canute from Western Oklahoma. Young, they're going to have everybody back, and you better get them this year because they've got a couple of freshmen coming next year. They watch out. Canute may be poised to do a little bit of what Ceiling and Hydro Weekly have been doing.
That's kind of what I've been hearing over here about Canute. Definitely a team to watch in the future. But I lean Skinny's way. I definitely am not going to count against Ceiling, but I do think this field maybe is more wide open than the people may think. Down to Class A boys now. They are definitely going to open up the big house this year as they have the Tuesday morning session. And get your running shoes to start it. Breakfast at the big house is number 1 Okarche taking on unranked Texoma. The 10:30 a.m. game, we have Rattan or Rattan, depending on where you're from.
Rattan.
Sterling. Cyril and Caddo playing at 1:30 p.m. And then the noon game is Summit Christian. And, of course, the Warriors are the defending state champs. They're undefeated this year. They're literally running crazy out there on the floor. Can anybody tackle Okarche in this state tournament? Shane, I'm going to start with you. I know you've seen them at least on film. I don't know if you've been able to see them in person, but can anybody beat Okarche this year?
I really don't think so. I think Texoma made a nice run to get there, but I just don't think they're going to have the guard play to hang in that first round game. I think the lowest point total for Okarche this year is 73 points, and it's just unbelievable how explosive they've been able to score the ball. They're just so talented. I've got them playing Rattan in the second round. I think Rattan has played a really good schedule, played some bigger schools, so I think that's helped them. On the bottom half, I've got Caddo. I think they've played a pretty good schedule as well. and I'd have them playing okay. So I've got Okarche playing okay in the finals, and I've got Okarche winning. I don't want to say big, it's a state tournament, but man, these guys are really, really good.
I think Okarche being so good and so dominant this year kind of overshadows the rest of this state tournament field. These are, I mean, this Class A field is really good. You know, we're kind of in that third year of, you know, a couple of years ago, everybody who was in the state tournament was young and had everybody coming back. And, you know, we're starting to sit with OK and Caddo and Rattan and Okarche. You know, these are all guys who've been there and going at it for the last couple of years. So this is a really strong and experienced field. And I know Coach Aaron West isn't overlooking anybody, but I think everybody just kind of sees Okarche and just tabs them in, and maybe they'll do it. But this is a really good field here. Tony, are you going to pick with the Warriors? I know you've seen them a few times this year.
I am, and I since that night that I watched them play OBA, I basically have told everybody that they may be the second best team, regardless of class in the state of Oklahoma. They have everybody that can shoot the ball. They run the floor well. They space well. They get you in bad situations. They are accurate passers. Coach West does a great job, and I just don't see that anybody can then handle Okarche for an entire game. I did see the OK and Southwest Covenant area finals game at Stroud Friday night. OK, Diesel Davis got into foul trouble, didn't have a very good game, but they pulled out a close victory. And then, but I tell you what, this Texoma story is a pretty good one. They were down 22 to Southwest Covenant in the consolation finals area and come back and won. So they're kind of on a magical fairy tale ride. But I agree. I think it's still Okarche's to lose, and it may be theirs to lose next year as well. I mean, they're super young. Well, they have one senior, I believe, on this squad, and I think they're going to get invited to the Tournament of Champions next year. Adam and I have heard that discussion up there, but they belong and thought they belonged this year, but I think they're far superior than just about anybody in any class, to tell you the truth. So I'm going with the Warriors.
Well, I will say that game you were at, OBA this year down considerably. They weren't an excellent team, but Okarche did score 43 points in the first quarter in that game.
75.
Yeah, 75 at half. And that was an example of if Okarche shoots it well, that's what happens, because they're going to get the quantity. So if they get they're going to get the quantity of attempts, and that's how they just really run past people. So they're averaging, I bet you, 25 to 30 more shots a game than their opponents. And then when they're shooting at a high clip, then you get 43 points in a quarter and 75 by halftime, and it's just hard to keep up with.
The numbers are also kind of skewed, Swish, because like his dad, Ray West, the legend, Aaron doesn't score 100 points. Right. He pulls the ball out. Even that OBA game with 6.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, they were at 95, and they were passing it around for a good 2-3 minutes. And it would just, it just become an open layup.
Skinny, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Okarche is the biggest favorite in any class this week. Awesome. I tell you what, I noticed last year they play so dadgum hard. Man, they play hard. They're athletic, and they just get after you. 29-0. I think they'll obviously be in the finals. I'm like Coach Feely. I've got OK in the finals. They've been there, 3 times since 2016, haven't been able to take home a title. And, it's kind of just been a bad break. They're sort of like the Utah Jazz were back in the 90s. They ran into Coach Hines and his boys a couple of times in the finals. Now they get to, if they get there again, running into this ridiculous Okarche team. I've got those two in the finals, and I'll take Okarche to win Class A. I'm intrigued by Summit Christian to see kind of what they can do. 13-1 against all Class A teams. I'm intrigued to see where they'll go, but I don't think it makes any difference. Okarche is going to be the back-to-back state champs in Class A.
Mark?
Yeah, Summit Christian, who they make upset. They were undefeated. They couldn't even crack into the top 10. Lost in the regional tournament. Man, I'll tell you what. I came on here to give some effusive praise to Aaron West Okarche team, but Tony went up. He went upper shelf stratosphere on calling them the second best team in the state. I think that's crazy talk. You got teams like Owasso, Weatherford Crossings, Booker T. But I don't know. It'd be really tough, I think, for them to score against some of the length and athleticism in the upper classes. But they pressure you and force you into mistakes like nothing I've seen. And they are all athletic, and they're gym rats, and they're really good. And so I like it when I agree with Coach Feely. It makes me nervous when I don't. But I've got Okarche and OK in the finals. And I agree with Skinny also. I think that of all of the classes this weekend, Okarche losing would be the biggest upset. They did get upset a couple of years ago in the first round when I think that they felt like they could win. They got the job done last year for the first time since 1979. But this has been a bracket that's got some upsets in it. I mean, You've had some teams that were in the top 10 all year that aren't here. Sterling wasn't ranked. Frederick wasn't ranked. They met in the area finals, and Frederick got beat, couldn't make it to the state. But it'll be a fun bracket to see. But I think Okarche is easily the team to beat.
Yeah, I think that was Rattan, I believe, a couple of years ago. I mean, again, that's just, I mean, they can play ball down there, and it was just.
I think they learned a little bit of a lesson. I thought that game 23 against Rattan, they settled for a lot of threes. This team can really shoot the three, but this team scores a lot off of turnovers and points in the paint on layups. And I think that's the difference is you don't want to rely on threes so much at the state tournament. You have one bad shooting night in a gym that's a little bit different than most of the gyms you've played in all year, and you're done.
Yeah, their points off turnovers is out of this stratosphere on what they do each and every night there. So if they can run into a team who can find a way to kind of settle down and handle that pressure, then it could get interesting. So most everybody going with Okarche and Sealing in Class A.
So you want to create your future, discover a path worth traveling down, find a career to get excited about. For decades, Career Tech has been training talented, skilled individuals, empowering them to step into a career that fuels not only their life, but the Oklahoma workforce. These individuals are the heartbeat of this state's economy. Individuals just like you. Create your future today at Oklahoma Career Tech.
Okay, so let's move on to Class B now. And they're going to be Wednesday. We'll start with the girls. They're going to have the afternoon session. No Omega this year, the number one team in Class B, not at state for the first time since 2018. So Hammond's going to be the top seed, the number 2 Lady Warriors, who did beat Omega earlier this year on a neutral court. So it's Hammond and Leedy again in the first round. Those are 2 friendly neighbors that are going to make the drive to Oklahoma City to play each other. Whitesboro and Kiowa are on the top half of the bracket, and you have Arnett and Smithville, and Chattanooga and Lukiba Sickle. So certainly an interesting bracket here. They're going to be Wednesday at the fairgrounds. Friday they go to Yukon, and then back at the fairgrounds on Saturday. Mark, we'll start back with you and tell me who your pick is for Class B girls.
Man, Adam and I saw Arnett play. They haven't won a state tournament game since 2000. They were there last year, but man, they were so good on Friday night against Omega. They had incredible energy, were able to defeat the press very easily, and had a good combination of 3-point shots and points in the paint. So that's a really good team. I don't know if Skinny saw the game, but they lost by 38 to Hammond. That's kind of ridiculous. Hammond is their 5th straight state tournament. Lukiba Sickles is at their 6th straight state tournament. Hammond to me is the team to beat here. I think that they'll get it done. But I like Lukiba Sickles. They've got a bunch of experience. They've got a really, really good team. But the way that Arnett played on Friday, I got them in the finals. Taking on Hammond, and we'll see. I would guess if they play Hammond in the finals, it would be much closer than that game that they played in the tournament. I think it's a Hammond tournament earlier this year.
Arnett Lukiba semifinal potentially would be a lot of really good guard play. A lot of fun to watch those go at it. Booty?
Well, I've got the call of the last 2 games on the other network. Those, but been talking to those coaches tonight, and it's kind of interesting to talk to Coach Toon at Arnett. He says, we may not be very big in stature, but we got a lot of heart. We got a lot of experience. They start the same lineups they did last year. They had two girls throwing up on the bus on the way to Oklahoma City last year, and his daughter hurt her knee there in the opening quarter of the game. But it's the same starting five that they've been together, so continuity is really one of the big deals for them, and able to handle basketball against other people's presses. I relate to them as kind of jitterbugs because they can get through the size, but it's just really hard for me to pick against Emily West and Hammond. Fortunate enough to see them all three games at the tournament champions this year. I thought their guard play at that point, albeit against 6A, 5A competition, was kind of on the weaker side. They weren't able to handle it. And I think that really matured them as I got to see them. Adam, I was a late fill-in at the Skordle Festival at the Stride Center when Hammond and Lamega played there, with Hammond beating them. And I really think their guards have vastly improved, and that's what may propel them to a state title this year.
Mark, I don't know if you and Adam were able to see it because it was a funny sight there at the Stride Center, but Lomega Superintendent Corey Wilson, his daughter-in-law, is from Arnett, and I think she maybe has a sister playing, and so Corey's holding his granddaughter, the Lomega Superintendent holding his granddaughter who's wearing an Arnett jacket before the game and after the game, but it was kind of a funny scene to see that there. But
that trio of those Arnett girls that are all playing, they're going on to play softball. Adam was getting some texts the other night talking about how good they are in that sport. But the Landry Bayless, number 32 for Arnett, I mean, she is so fast, maybe the fastest girls player I've seen this year. She's incredibly fast. So she had a really good game the other night. But they, Tony said they got all 5 starters back from last year. I don't think they had a sub in the game the other night. So they're Iron Men on that team.
I think they play 6 at the most, and but they were able to get it done. Shane Feely?
Well, I think Hammond is the favorite at this point. The 6'4" post girl. I mean, you just don't see that very often, and that's like having a 7-footer in boys. That's a really, really big gal that's very effective, and I think that she's going to lead them as far as they need to go. I think Kiowa played a good schedule. I think they've got a good squad, but I don't think they'll have enough to get past Hammond in the semis. Coach Toon out at Arnett, his teams, those old teams that he had at Fargo, they were relentless and they could really shoot it. And I think that's what he's got going on right now with the Arnett girls. We saw them early at the Canton tournament. That's a good bunch. I've got them playing Lukiba in the semis, but I do have Lukiba beating Arnett. So I've got Hammond over Lukiba in the finals, but I do have Arnett as my dark horse.
One interesting thing, we talk about Hammond and Leedy playing each other. Coach Leah Beer was the coach at Leedy. Then she goes to Hammond, and I think she's at Hammond when Hammond beats Leedy 82-23 a couple of years ago in the first round of the state tournament. Now she's back at Leedy coaching against Hammond in the state tournament. So just kind of a really interesting dynamic there. But yeah, I remember being at that game a couple of years ago, and Hammond absolutely could not miss, and Leedy could not get it going. And but now Coach Beer back at Leedy getting it done with the Lady Bison. Skinny, who do you got this one?
Yeah, Hammond. One thing that would concern me just a little bit about them, talking to Coach Conley this last week, he mentioned how much better his guards have gotten and maybe even quicker than he thought. But the one thing about their season is they really had it geared toward wanting to play Lomega on Saturday night. And you hope that doesn't, if you're a Hammond fan, you really hope that doesn't kind of upset the apple cart to not see the Lady Raiders there. West is ridiculous. 2,000 points, over 1,000 rebounds. She's getting pretty close to 400 blocks as well. Their defense averaging 21 a game against so far in the 4 playoff games. And like I said, the guards have been good. They're 12-0 against Class B schools. So I'm not going to go against Hammond in the finals. I got them against Lokiba as well. Lokiba 28-2, 14-0, also undefeated against Class B teams. And then I had Arnett as the dark horse. Landry Bayless. Seems like they've had a Bayless at Arnett for 20 years now. Just kind of rolling through. She is incredibly fast. She can shoot it. Arnett plays a style that it's hard to deal with because of how fast they are and how quick they are. But give me Hammond winning it all over Lokiba in the finals.
I think one thing that certainly would help Hammond is the fact that at least they did get to play Lomega during the regular
Mhm.
season at the Skordle Festival, wrapped up the festival there. And so at least they've got that to chew on, and so there won't be that complete void there. So a lot of the panel liking Hammond in this one. We'll move down to Class B boys. They have the morning session. Number one, Calumet, very impressive in their area championship win against Frontier. I was there for the first half of that, and I know Mark, you and Adam called a lot of that game. Calumet got it done there. They're going to take on Duke at 9 a.m. to open things up. Braggs and Dover are going at 10:30 a.m. Dover and State for the first time since 1993. That's a great class, Shane Feely.
Right on.
Number 6, Hammond. Number 9, Wilson Henrietta. They're going at 1:30 p.m. the noon game. DCLA, Coach Cole Jones getting it done for the Eagles as they come back and beat Frontier on Saturday, and the Stewart Hornets. So pretty good field here in Class B boys. Skinny, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to let you set the tone for the rest of the field here and tell us what's going to go down in this one.
I think it's a rematch from last year. I talked to Jake after the game, Calumet. He said his guys were just completely locked in, and that's what they have the ability to do. They'll have the revenge factor on their side after the way. I mean, Wilson Henrietta in that second half against Calumet last year in the finals was one of the most impressive halves of basketball that you can see on that floor. They made every shot. They got after Calumet. And so I really think we're going to see a rematch. There's a lot of things swirling around. I personally hope we get to see that final because I think that Wilson Henrietta is going to be kind of like the wrestling heel. I think that the majority of that arena is going to be against them. And maybe they feed off of that. Maybe it works. The game's early enough to where they're going to have all their guys there if they get to the finals. So give me Calumet versus Wilson Henrietta, but I think it's the reverse. I think Calumet has the revenge factor on their side. I think they win the state title this year. And a dark horse, though, man, it's not surprising to me watching Jared Reese's teams at Kingfisher and how hard they play and how much they guard your tail. Not surprising to me whatsoever. So maybe a dark horse could be Dover just because of the experience that he has guiding teams in that building to state titles.
I brought up on the Kingfisher Times and Free Press Facebook page, I brought up a little bit of reference for the last time the Dover boys made the state tournament. Here's the classes that were seniors: Saved by the Bell, Beverly Hills 90210, and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Those classes graduated in 1993, so that's how long it's been. And of course, Shane Feely and Michael Swisher graduated that year as well. People darn aware we started our illustrious careers at Dover, then moved on and didn't get to be a part of that 93 team. But I know both of us are happy to see the Longhorns back at state. Shane Feely, how do you see this bracket going?
Well, if Michael Swisher and Shane Feely were there, we'd have won the whole thing.
Some things don't even have to be said.
Right on. I see that Calumet, but I got to watch them play Hinton early. And what impressed me about those guys is how relentless they are. I think they're, real similar to Okarche, and obviously they played Okarche pretty well as anybody did. They're got some depth, and they're pretty young too. They're just, and they shoot it well. They're relentless on the glass. So I have them moving on. In that game with Braggs and Dover, I'm taking Braggs only because Dover hasn't been there in a while. And I don't even feel right about picking them because I think Jared, of all the active boys coaches, I don't know that there's a coach that gets more out of less than Jared Reese does. And he's going to be my dark horse because as long as there's not a shot clock put in before Wednesday, Dover's got a chance. So I've got Wilson moving on to the semis, but I don't have Wilson getting to the finals. I'm gonna take Stewart. Just looking through their scores, and they seem to be pretty explosive, and it looks like they can play different styles, which I think is important when you get to the big house. If you're just a running team, somebody's going to slow you down. If you just play slow, somebody's going to try to speed you up. And I think those teams that can play multiple ways are more adaptable when they get to the tournament. So I've got Calumet and Stewart in the finals, and I'm going to take Calumet. But like I said, I feel really bad about even counting Dover out just because of Jared's experience.
You know what? You almost feel bad for Calumet. They've forever the bridesmaids right now. I think all 3 seasons last year, both baseball and basketball seasons, runners up. This fall, state runners up in basketball. Once again, they're coming in as the favorites in this one. Tony Wilson, can they get it done this year?
Man, I think that they're probably the team to beat. But tell you what, fellas, I mean, if you're going off coaching, I'm with you, Coach. Jared Reese is just with Danny Green and Chris Combs. The plan that they put together, the thoroughness and what they know about their opponent, the spots that they know they have to be in to defend. Those guys, I mean, I've said it forever. Swish knows. I mean, me and Swish, unfortunately, for Swish, have been friends for 30 years plus, and I've said it to everybody, and I'll say it to anybody listening. That Chris Combs is the best assistant coach in Oklahoma. Period. That dude is so relentless about film, about minute details, and it just helps their teams win. And it gives Jared all the ammunition he knows to how to affect the game plan, and just like you said, get the most out of what he has. But Calumet, they're going to get up and down the floor. They're going to be really good. I'm going with Dover's the dark horse, and I'm just going to go. I think it's a 50-50 game with Calumet and Wilson Henrietta, but I think Calumet may get it done this year.
Mark, what do you see going down here?
If we have a Calumet Dover game, I mean, that is going to be something else to watch, because the self-proclaimed greatest player in Blackwell basketball history, Jared Reese, is going to lock some defense on that Calumet team that can really shoot. And they've got a bunch of guys that can play, and they're really good. The bottom half of the bracket, I like Coach Feely's Stewart pick, where they've scored over 100 points quite a few times this year. I think Calumet will win after losing the last 2 years. But I also agree with everybody that Wilson is going to be hard to beat, especially if there's been some special, arrangements made for those two Shelburne brothers to play. So I think it's a rematch too, and I'll go with Calumet getting the win this time. I'd say this for Coach Proctor and the team this year. They scheduled up and they played a bunch of good teams. They had some tournament games snowed out, and they scheduled Crooked Oak late in the year, really good Class 3A team. Cassia Hall's a really good Class 3A team. Of course, they didn't win in the Tournament of Champions, but they played in that. So I think that it was really hard. I mean, feel bad for my boy Coach Hadley at Barnum, that they got stuck in a regional that had that team in it and Dover in it, and it was a really tough regional because Barnum was in the top 3 all season long. But to have them seated as low as they are, that's not accurate if that team is whole.
As I mentioned before, I let you go before we sign off here. This is the last year at the Big House. Let's just pretend that nothing from the Big House, all of the vendors outside there in the concourse, nothing's going to make the move over to the new arena. What's one place that you're definitely going to stop at out there and eat or purchase or whatever before the last state championship game is played at the Big House this year? Mark, I'll start with you.
Oh man, that's a good question. I like the curly fry loaf, but I mean, it's too messy and there's not enough time in between games, which is not a problem. I mean, that's good because we get in, get our business done, and then we get out of there. That's probably it for me. I mean, that would be it for me.
That curly fry loaf is only about 7,200 degrees when that thing comes out, when it's fresh. It
better be crispy.
Oh yeah, it takes about a good 25 minutes for that thing to cool down before I can eat it. But man, yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that comes from Tad's, right? That's a pretty good stop right there. Booty, you got one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the breakfast spot down on the end on the backside where we get to come in. That breakfast is dynamite, and get you a breakfast burrito or some biscuits and gravy. I'm a fan of breakfast anytime, all the time. So that's my spot, Swish.
Shane?
I'm going to go with Mark. My doctor tells me I need to eat more French fry loaves, so I'm going to try to hit that before we leave.
I need his number.
Yeah. Yeah, we're about to make somebody really rich right now. Skinny, do you have a spot?
Yeah, I'm like Tony, exactly the same thing. And that back spot there with the breakfast on a Saturday morning, there's nothing better.
Yeah, so I think we all pretty much frequent the same spot. Of course, there's the popular, you can get the chocolate covered peanuts. A lot of people like to stop there. There's Dippin' Dots is always busy. And then my daughter, she's always got to have a funnel cake every time she goes.
Yeah.
Typical fair stuff right there. But
I would like to throw
I'm a big Tad's guy.
I would like to throw the Stride Center under the bus a little bit. Is that was in line and I was looking for the gummy nerd clusters, which they didn't have, but they did have sour Skittles, which Diesel Horse had for the first time in his life. It's probably changed him dramatically since Friday. But the two large Dippin' Dot ice creams, $18 for a guy. So I felt bad for him. He must have been a wealthy land baron out there in Western Oklahoma to be able to afford that. But and secondly, if you're a grown man, just stay away from the Dippin' Dots.
Well, I know you can get a snow cone a lot cheaper than that.
I know where to get one of those.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
hey guys,
a lot.
I appreciate you guys coming on here tonight. It's going to be a great week. It's going to be a long week starting Tuesday, running all the way through Saturday with 2A joining A and B this year, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And then the next week, we're going to start on Monday and have 6A and all the way down to 3A. So a lot of basketball coming up. Of course, I think you'll probably be able to catch Tony and Mark, I'm guessing, on some state tournament games there, as they're going to be broadcasting those on the NFHS network. But a lot of other games going on this weekend as those other classes hit the area. So a ton of basketball you can watch on Skordle as well.
Go Lions Friday night.
There you go. Tony will be cheering on the Lions. So be sure to check out your Skordle app to keep up with all the scores up to date. Boy, I was burning that app up this weekend. And of course, you can catch just tons of basketball there on Skordle app, skordle.tv.
We do want to send some well wishes to your rival host, Andy Skates Campbell, who is men after maybe something that's one of the most sensational driveway spills that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, you just talk about seeking attention. I mean, A, you do it, and then B, you put it out there for. I mean, I think he was wanting some sympathy or something, but I would never. I would never is all I can say. I would never. But yeah, get well, Andy. Hope that ego's doing okay. But Mark, Tony will be listening and watching you this weekend, and good luck to your Lions, Tony.
Thank you,
Mark. I think the Maroons are done, but
Thanks, champs wrestling though.
Yep, champs.
Video that was.
Coach EJ Edgar is going to go viral too after taking his shirt off and then taking a dive and twisting his ankle. It looked like he may need.
I saw it. That was fantastic.
Before his pants came on down.
Shane, we'll be seeing you. I'm sure I'll be seeing you at a track meet or two here in the spring, if not something else. Keep that whippets going strong over there. And Aaron, Skinny, we'll be seeing you at the big house.
Yes.
I'm sure you'll be there as usual, and we'll be seeing you guys at the big house as well. Be sure to come drop by and say hello whenever you can, and join us next week. Hopefully, we can do this again. For the rest of the gang, this has been the Skordle State Hoops Pick'em Show.